Welcome, Vince.
Thank you, darling, for having me.
Welcome to my circle.
Thank you. The circle of the tree of trust.
Only the coolest people get into Delphine Circle, which
I'm
is
excited.
you.
Yes. I want to be in your top 10 at least, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Top 6, actually, if you can.
Oh, I'll take it.
Vince Spinnato, you are a cosmetic chemist and certified nose, president and CEO of TurnKey Beauty and VS Vincenzo.
Right.
25-year career in beauty, creating products in personal care, cosmetics, and fragrances. So for people who may not be familiar with the term certified nose, what exactly does that mean?
A certified nose is pretty much a perfumer, but what it actually is, it's very similar to being a sommelier or a cheesemonger. You're really specialized in the craft. So we go through a period of studying, which took, I think, 6 or 7 years for myself to go through. I mean, every essential oil you can imagine in the world. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds. So I'm able to now put those together, understand how they work together. And my nose is literally certified for $1 million, like Cheetah Rivera with her legs and Ginger Rogers back in her legs back in the day on her Rockettes. So that's the certified nose, meaning you actually have it insured and that's kind of your craft, if you will. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, that makes sense. So I always like to tell how people came into my circle.
Right.
We met about 7 years ago. I've done the math. We met through our girlfriend, Ronna Rothwell.
Right.
That's in the days when I was creating my Delphine cosmetic line. And we didn't end up working together on that line, but we did go on to work together later in creation of some hemp line products. So we've had a little bit of a history together.
You got to experience being firsthand in my services, right?
I did. And honestly, that's where I really just came to respect you so much. I mean, what you do is so unique and it is so, you're an expert level at what you do.
Right.
And it was such a fun thing to work with you and just get to understand more about the process. Because I think you're right. I think most people really have no idea about the time and detail work that goes into creating product lines. Yeah. And of course, you've worked for everybody, worked for some of the biggest cosmetic brands, some of the biggest personal care products companies, and some of the biggest celebrities.
Yeah, it's been all over the map.
Yes. So, in fact, you've created over 300 product brands for mega cosmetic companies. And I know it's like Chanel, Estee Lauder. Who else am I missing?
Oh, God. P&G, the Oil of Olay, Senegence, which is one of my biggest clients and brands that I work with. My career started originally with Jennifer Lopez's second fragrance called Still. And that rolled into Michael Jordon and Jessica Simpson. So I kind of went that celebrity route for a while too. And then just a lot of private people, doctors and brands, and just like there's so many of them. Yeah, but everything from Trader Foods and Whole Foods private label up to Chanel, Sephora, Lauder, and Elizabeth Arden and everything in between.
Oh my gosh, you've seen them all. Well, let's name drop a little bit. We got Jennifer Lopez, Gwen Stefani, Carrie Underwood, Victoria Beckham, Jessica Simpson. You mentioned Michael Jordon.
Right.
All right, come on, scoop some dirt. Was Beckham really a bitch?
No, not a bitch, but definitely just stern and very professional to the point where someone like Jennifer Lopez, I worked with her actually in the very late 90s, so it was a really long time ago. And I always remember this because she was just dating Ben Affleck at the time and Jenny from the Block, that her big song came out at the time. And I'm from New Jersey, she's from the Bronx, and we totally hit it off. And she used to call me Vinny from the Block, and so we had a really cute relationship together. And don't get me wrong, this product, her fragrance was developed by a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I just was one of the people involved, in developing, one of the perfumers working with it. But I did get to meet her a couple of times, and she was absolutely lovely. She's one of my favorite. And as you know, she's 51 as we do this interview today, and she's like aging in reverse.
Right.
So she's just launched a brand new beauty line, which I unfortunately didn't have a part of, but it's doing really well for her.
Awesome. Yeah, no, she does. She looks amazing.
Yeah. I wish I looked that good now. She's 5 years older than me.
Wow. So of all the products that you worked on, what were your favorites?
The favorite ones really for me are actually the most difficult ones. So I don't like to do like kind of me too products. I call them like a body wash line or like a shampoo, conditioner. One of the most challenging ones that is really bizarre. I actually worked for a world-renowned colon rectal surgeon, which it was a hemorrhoid product actually. So it's an OTC drug. And the reason why I'm mentioning that one is that the product line did so well that his surgeries went down by 70% because they would supply my products before they would go in and have colon rectal surgery, and people would be canceling their surgeries. The product was working so well.
My
so that's one of the most beneficial ones to me. And then a second one I would say also was for a urologist that I worked with in Manhattan. Another drug, which was we called it he called it Dream Cream, which is like a topical cream to enhance orgasms in women during sex. So women that couldn't achieve orgasm, women that wanted to achieve more, and it's a vascular constrictor. And I always like joke about this line because he's a very kind of like straight-laced, stern doctor. Like most doctors are, pretty straight-laced. And he launched this line called Dream Cream. And I was like, dude, it's not the right name. It's like 6 months later, it wasn't doing really well in sales. Like, let me just give me a little marketing creator freedom. And we came back and said, we're going to call it Scream Cream. That's what it was doing, right? And once we changed it from Dream Cream to Scream Clean, I mean, the women were writing me letters saying, I want to rip the paint off the walls. Like, it was doing like so well.
Wow.
And it was really working for them. So those are ones I'm kind of more proud of that actually really enhance people's lives and change in this case, their sexual experience, or other people that didn't have to have a big major colon rectal surgery to be able to use a topical product instead.
Are those products still on the market? Can we find the Scream Cream?
They are still on the market. The one I did for the doctor is called Tush MD, which is a really cute name.
Yeah.
And the other one's called Scream Cream, and it's still out there. And I don't know how we got on. Now we talked about anuses and vaginas so far. But that's how I started my career. So that's what kind of started off there.
Well, you said the highlights. So
that's
I
right.
guess those are the highlights.
All right. So we did everything waist and below so far.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was reading your book, My Pursuit of Beauty. My gosh, crazy page turner. We'll definitely talk more about that coming up. But you talk about really falling in love with beauty at a very young age.
Yeah.
At 10, I think you said, is when you made your decision that you really wanted to pursue this as a career, which I don't know many 10-year-olds that know what they want to do and actually stick with it their whole life like you have. So that alone is quite an accomplishment. But I really resonated with that because I fell in love with beauty at a very young age.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we met, through the beauty business. And my mom was a cosmetologist, and I remember just seeing that metamorphosis of seeing women kind of before and after the makeup and thought, this is magic. I thought, I thought it was incredible.
Right.
And I started working for Estee Lauder when I was 19. And you talked about having a job opportunity with them. And of course, I was just working at the counter at Macy's San Francisco, Union Square. But it started me on a lifetime career in cosmetics, and I really loved it. But I did more of the makeup artist route. And then I created my own line. But you weren't really a makeup artist, right? So you were always in the formulation side.
Yeah, and to your point, it really was just it's kind of an embarrassing story, but I had to give full credit to Young and the Restless. That's actually where I got the idea from. And I had that in my book. I started watching that at 10 years old with my grandmother, and that's what they did on the show. It was called Jabot. It was a cosmetic company, and that's where I got the idea from. And I didn't deviate from that.
Wow.
So I just got fascinated with it. And then Dynasty came out in '81, and that I just got enthralled with the stuff. And that show is about oil, right? Between the Young and the Restless about the beauty industry, and Dynasty being about just being able to control the world and glamour, right? That's where I got the ideas from, and I stuck with it. But to your question, it's like color chemistry is really like a whole nother science. So I work on everything: hair care, skincare, bath and body, pedicure, manicure, baby products, even pet products, energy drinks. So anything that's kind of like pressed powder, like blush, mascara, like blush, like eyeshadow, or like lipstick bulks. We don't do anything like that. That's a whole nother science, just color chemistry. Tom's like a personal care chemist and a perfumer.
So how did your family respond to this? I mean, here you are, a 10-year-old kid, and you're raised in a Italian, Catholic, conservative family.
Right.
I mean, was your parents trying to discourage you, or?
Yeah, they actually were supportive, but they also thought I was going to grow out of it. So when it came time to go to college, I was fought by everybody saying, just you don't know you're really going to want to do this in real life. This has been like, again, a Young and a Restless fantasy. You've been following a show.
Yeah.
And you're gonna
grow out of it.
Yeah, you're gonna grow out of it. Go to college, go to school, and do it. And I listened to him, and I went. And my school was in the Pennsylvania mountains. I was only about 2.5 hours from Manhattan. And at that time, that was in '93. And I used to literally finish 2 or 3 classes and then drive to New York City and go walk in, to your point, to Lauder, Revlon, Arden, Chanel and actually bring on, this is like before 9/11, so you actually walk in the building, you wouldn't be like tackled to the ground, so you actually would like kind of like musicians, you'd be able to drop off CDs and, tape to be listened to. So even then I knew I wanted to do it, and I was frustrated being in school. I really knew I wanted to do this, but I tried to stay for a couple of years. I'm like, what? 2 years later, I was like, I'm out. I just got in the car and drove to California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and reading your book, you had every challenge. Talk about mind, body, and spirit. You were challenged on every level, right? Just the
times 20.
Times 20. And so let's talk a little bit about that, because you were taunted and bullied as a kid.
Right.
Most of your childhood was not a pleasant childhood, and nuns and all sorts of stressful things.
Right.
Got to college, was beaten almost.
Right, gay bashed, but unfortunately,
Gay bashing, yeah. And probably at a time when that wasn't as something that people talked about and it's not as prevalent as we.
No, and I put that in my book. I've had that in my book that at that time, which was in 1995, so it was 2 years into school, and I was in a pretty sophisticated area, but I had to drive through. I was driven 3 hours to Philadelphia to even get treatment, and the people in my town where I was at for the college, I never say the college name, I don't want to throw them under the bus, but it was just like, they literally said, if you're gay in this town, this is what happens to you. So I had to go to a real city, which was Philadelphia, was the closest city to actually get treated. And it was a really, really bad one. I was like down for the count, like, blood, black and blue. Just all kinds of things happened to me. But so it was definitely a life changer. And still to this day, which I'm still you talk about spirit and mind, I haven't confronted the college yet. I still need to go back someday, which I'm going to do in the very near future. Because I left my my roommate in college that day. It was my friend Doug, who's still a very good friend of mine. Actually lives in Atlanta with my business manager there. They all know each other. And I just left, and I never went back to the school again. He shipped my stuff to me, so I never went back. But I'm going to go back. And that's like one of my last demons I think I had to go confront.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And maybe now that your movie's coming out, that it's a good time to do it. And just, they obviously know who you are, because anybody that has reached the heights that you are, I'm sure is well touted. And then, as if all of that's not enough, and this is actually in a time since I've known you, you lost everything, almost your life,
right?
And your pet's life in a house fire, and basically had to rebuild from scratch. Yep,
I'm 47 now, and it happened when I was 44, so not that long ago. And to your point, everything was gone. It was just all 40 years of history. I'm very, very sentimental. I had a lot of memorabilia. It's stuff like my dogs that passed away in Path. I had their ashes. I had my dad's flag from his coffin.
And your parents were already passed, so you had taken all the family.
Exactly. I had just taken all the family stuff over, and I didn't have even a toothbrush left. So I literally started all over again from scratch. And I had friends that I remember that night brought me. I still have the first sweatshirt they brought me, and a pair of pants, and the toothbrush I actually kept just to put it aside, because it was kind of I was at nothing at all.
Wow. Yeah. So how has that changed you?
Well, it definitely was a shift. The main thing was I had to let go of all the stuff that I was that I thought was so important to me, and I still really miss.
Because you had a beautiful home, you had beautiful furnishings, you live a beautiful life.
Yeah, and it took many years to kind of get there. So now it's even to this day, as we're talking, I still haven't settled with the insurance company. So I'm still 3 years in. I'm still in a rental right now again. I haven't been able to ground myself again and find a new home and start buying furniture. I'm in a house with somebody else's furniture and somebody else's stuff. So it's still kind of up in the air.
So I guess what I think about when I hear you telling this story is where do you find your strength, Vince? Here you are, you're launching a book, you're launching a movie, you're launching a product line. Who comes out of that kind of experience, almost losing their life, basically having to rebuild their health from scratch? You had your esophagus was burnt.
Yeah, it was. And the answer is I don't really know, Delphine, honestly. I don't know where it comes from. I think you're either wired that way or not. I'm a true entrepreneur. And the reason why I say that is I personally, to this day, have never worked for anybody in my life. I opened my corporation when I was 20 years old, 1995. I remember the exact day. I always remember the exact day I did it, because it was on the OJ verdict result day. The day I was incorporated. That's why I remember I was signing the things when I was watching the TV, watching the verdict come through. So I know exactly what day I did it. And I never worked for anybody in my life. So I think you either have to be wired that way or not. And there were many times, don't get me wrong, when I said, okay, I got to go work for just get a real job, work for another company. And in my mind, that would last like 48 hours. I'm like, I just can't do it. I'd have interviews with them. They'd be like, and when I wasn't even being like a smartass, I would be like, hey, Vince, okay, so we start at 8 a.m. I said, well, I'm going to be coming in at 9:30. Like, well, no. I was like, you can't, yeah, we start at 8. And you got to wear like a suit. I'm like, no, I wear jeans. So I wasn't even like being smart. I just couldn't even comprehend like doing what I was told to do. I just like.
You have a very strong personality.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Even as a kid, I'm not really proud of this now later on, but I used to bust my parents' balls later on in life, just make fun of them because they would say, hey, your curfew is at 11 o'clock. Well, I'll go ahead and see you at 1. Like, well, no, you got to be home by 11. Well, I'll be back at 1. And your dad would be like, hey, you're punished for a week. No, I'm not. So, I mean, I'm not really proud of that, but I got away with it. It was the thing. So I think the reason why, that I got away with it, I'm just became wired that way to try and just keep going to get what I want until I get it.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously paid off because you're a very successful person, and what you've been able to accomplish in your industry is amazing. But tell me about, one of the things that I feel like I hear a lot amongst people who are trying to find ways to overcome is they want to make excuses. They kind of want to say, well, I lost everything, so I shouldn't, I shouldn't be expected to do anything. Was there a time in your life where you just wanted to wallow in self-pity? Nobody would give you any pushback if you wanted to do that.
Oh yeah, many times. But
do you have those low points?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I definitely did, many times. But I sit in it and I let it go through me, and then I think it's the way you're wired. Either you're wired that way or you're not. And just the following day, I'm like, let's go. One thing my mother taught me, this is when I was a kid, she always, and I still do this to this day, is that because you always hear, oh, I can't sleep. I'm so worried about blah, blah, blah. I can't get any sleep. I can't rest. And actually, it's also from Scarlett O'Hara from Going to Win. I remember it's kind of part of her story too. She always says, tomorrow is another day. So in my mind, I'm very easily, no matter how bad life's going with me, I can go, I'm going to sleep. The problem's going to be there in the morning, and which it always is. But I'm able to sleep through the night and sleep peacefully. And then in the morning, I just tackle it again. Like what Scarlett O'Hara said, tomorrow is another day. I'll never be hungry again, right? And that's the same kind of thing. I'll just like go to sleep, and when I wake up, the problem's still going to be there. There's nothing I can do while I'm sleeping. Right. Yeah.
Is it a falling back in your own self-confidence? I mean, I know you say in your book that you're no longer a practicing Catholic, but you still believe in God. I mean, how much does your faith play a role in that confidence or that?
Yeah, and I grew up, 13 years of Catholic school. So I do definitely believe in God and all that for sure, but I just don't go to church stuff. And it was hard. I mean, just being totally frank, and being a Roman Catholic and 100% Italian, I remember many, many sermons in 6th, 7th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade where it was all about gay stuff, where it was like abomination, even masturbating, all that. So I was like, I thought I was going to burst into flames. So I was like, so it's really more of I still don't think the Catholic Church is to that point where they accept it. So I just can't really get back to like going to a physical structure. So I just like, if I talk to God, I can do it here with you. I can do it in a bathroom. I can do it in my house. I don't need to go to a physical structure, I don't think, and be like taking communion and doing that kind of thing. Because I do totally believe in all of it, but it's just, I just don't want to, I just don't like go and kind of engage in all of it.
Yeah. Well, I think you're choosing the parts that work for you and leaving the parts that don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things that I like to do is to ask people the big questions to kind of dive a little deep.
Sure.
Deeper.
Deep dive me.
I'm going to deep dive on you. Tell me a little bit about what your daily routines are.
It's pretty basic. I mean, I go to my lab every day in the morning. I have my beautiful 200-pound English Mastiff dog, Savannah. She spends her whole entire life with me. So we go everywhere together. And I have her I work with the Wounded Warrior Project with her. So part of my daily routine, if I can do it, I'll go see some vets. And I can't do it every day, obviously, but I try and go every Friday with that. So really, it's more of a Friday thing. I'll go down to Camp Pendleton, or I'll go to the area and I'll take Savannah with me, and we'll go visit the vets. So that's kind of one of my lethargic kind of things to do.
Why is that important to you? Why do you make time for that?
Well, my family were all Army and Marines and all that, so I definitely I never did it because I have a big respect for it, and I feel that the animal that I have, I don't know where it comes from or why, but I've been very, very, very good was training animals since I was 5 years old. And I have a story that I just told you the other day to another podcast that I did, where I was approached by a rabid dog one time, like a Cujo type dog, and I was able to make the animal sit and stop, and my friends were all running, and so I don't have that fear of animals. Not that I'm saying I would go and try and calm down a grizzly bear type thing, but I do. But I'm very, very easily able to train animals for some reason. My dog Savannah now, I can do 4 or 5 or 6 commands with her just with eye contact. We don't have to do anything. So I think my point is that
beautiful dog.
Yeah, she's a beautiful dog. And the vets normally, when I go see them, they say, oh, we always see German Shepherds and Labs and Golden Retrievers, but they see an English Mastiff, which is a 200-pound animal, once every 15 years. And she just is, full of energy. And I have a lot of my own, we'll talk about Trichotillomania a little bit too, which is my hair pulling disorder I have. So I have a lot of my own personal PTSD. So I really feel through my animal, I can get back to them a little bit.
Does a lot of times they say that animals can be used as kind of a comfort for people who get anxiety. That's why they take them on planes and stuff.
Right.
And you always have a dog. You've had one dog after the next. Is that part of it? Is that important to you?
Well, it is. And I'll just go right into it then. So I have trichotillomania, is what it's called, which is a hair pulling disorder. So it's kind of in the family of cutting and nail biting and that kind of thing. And it affects 99% women. So it's mostly a woman disorder. But of the 1% of men that have it, half of them are normally gay. So there's something with the female chromosome that crosses over why some men have. So I'm so lucky to be 1% to have this thing. But to your question, the animals, whether it's a cat or a dog, in my case, dogs, the concept of stroking the animal, petting them, playing with them, it's a release.
Soothing.
Yeah. The other thing I do for myself, I'll go and have my whole entire body waxed from neck to nuts once a month, right? And it's it gives me a fix of having the hair.
Takes anything off you can pull out.
That's right. So I learned these things over the years to kind of help me not pull the hair on my head, and it never goes away. There's still not a cure for it. It probably wouldn't be, but it's in the OCD category. And it's a very, very hidden disorder. If you were to YouTube it, for example, there's tons and tons and tons of women, and normally they're teenagers. So you hear a lot of girls that oh my God, I can't go to prom, I can't do this, I pulled my hair out, what do I do, and blah blah. So there's a lot of people out there looking for help. So I want to be really,
is it you're pulling it out at the root? I mean, that would seem painful and difficult.
Well, that's kind of part of it. Yes, you pull it out by the roots, but that's the disorder part. It's actually, for us, it's more of a release. It's actually a pleasurable sensation. And the thing I can kind of equate it to close to is almost kind of like popping a zit, right? Or something like that. It's like that. You want to get a sensation. And when we do the hair pulling, you can spend an hour actually looking for the feeling, waiting and trying to feel for the right hair.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so anyone that's got trichotillomania that hears this podcast will know exactly what I'm saying, that we're actually searching for something, and then we pull that one out, or in my case, a lot of times, it's a chunk. And another part of the disorder, which I don't have, luckily, is actually most of the people that have will actually swallow the hair again. They chew it and they swallow it. So something about taking out what's bad and putting it back in. So there's still not enough study on it to know. And by the way, this goes back to this actually is in the Bible. And this goes back, this has been talked about even in the Bible. It's just not a new disorder, but it's a very hidden one. It's a lot of people are embarrassed of it, and women can get away with wearing wigs. I just shaved my head to try so I don't have to pull it. I have a piece right here that I pulled. I haven't done it for 5 years. I just did it recently. So it just comes and goes. But I really like to be very open about it, because I know if I would have had the information growing up.
Is there support groups or places people can go?
Yeah, there is actually support groups. It's in Santa Cruz, California, actually. It's the only help center in the country to kind of deal with it. So there's that help center there for trichotillomania, yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that information, because honestly, before I read your book, I was not familiar with this at all. So
yeah, it's not one you hear about often.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. So when you want to hear the truth, who do you go to?
When I want to hear the truth, I honestly, I think I go within myself, because I don't know how to explain it. I'm not psychic, but I am very, very extremely intuitive. So if you were to say, hey, Vince, when's the next earthquake going to happen? I can't tell you. But if something comes to me and I don't pay attention, whether it's negative or positive, I'm always wrong. So I really tune within myself to try and get my own answers if I can. Don't get me wrong, I have many people that I rely on that are my mentors that I reach out to. But a lot of times I do it myself. I just kind of try and stay still, pay attention, and what I get. But if I try to figure it out. It doesn't come to me. It has to come like naturally. I say about these psychic moments things. There's a couple. I'll just tell you a really funny story because my mother had the same ability. And when I was in college in Pennsylvania, again, I told you I was going back and forth to Manhattan. My mother lived in South Jersey, and we were separated by like 4 or 5 months at that point. I was at school, and it was one of the days I just went into New York City, and I decided to go into Macy's Herald Square, and I went shopping, and I'm just kind of a smart-ass type of person, and my mother was a wedding planner and for her whole career down in South Jersey, and I was in the Crystal and like China area and Macy's, and the phone was ringing and ringing, and no one was answering. So I was just being a smart ass. I just answered the phone at Macy's Herald Square, and it was my mother on the phone calling Macy's to ask a question. So we were 4 hours away, 4 months, haven't seen each other, and at that moment in time, the phone rang. And why would I answer a phone at Macy's? I answered my mother.
You answered the Macy's phone, and right. It was your mother?
Correct. So that something like that, right? So I don't know how that's where something like that. Where I had another one, about 7, 8 years ago, where I had a dream, and my boyfriend at the time woke up and said, "Oh my God, I had this dream of this, this plane crash," and I literally saw. I saw the plane, I saw the tail number, and the whole entire thing. And it was about 2 years after 9/11. So I was asking him at the time, "Do I call like the FAA?" And said, "They're going to think you're a terrorist. You're going to think you're like whatever." And it was an Egyptian airline flight, and I saw the tail number. And like 8 hours later, it crashed in Brazil, and everybody got killed. So I still carry. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but I still carry that guilt that I didn't say anything. So I guess I don't know what you call that. So it's not, again, I'm not psychic, but I've had those couple instances like that. I was just telling my friend today, even at lunch today, that I have my ex relationship that we had a personal connection, and even my current fiance now, Roberto. If he stubs his toe in Montreal where he lived, I feel it. So it's like, and I'll say, "Hey, did something happen? Oh yeah, I hurt my back, I hurt my neck." So I don't know what you call that or what it is, but it's just quality. Just intuitive. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you meditate?
The answer is yes, but I only can get through like 12 minutes 12 seconds. I should say 12 seconds. So my mind is so busy. So I can meditate, and I do, but it just starts going it goes all over the place. So I do play. I have like spa, peaceful music I play in the house. I pump it through the house. I do that in the morning, so it's very peaceful. And I wouldn't call it meditation because I have tried that many times. I just can't stay still in my brain long enough to kind of think about it.
So a couple things I might recommend to you, because I went through this very exact same thing. And you are like me. Our brains don't stop for a second. First of all, guided meditation really helps. And then I started doing something called active meditation, the Silva method.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it was life transcendent to me. And the reason why I'm asking you that, because one of the things that I've been able to do since I've been meditating is to be able to feel like I'm able to connect to kind of like the universal field or the universal frequency.
Right.
And it's supposed to help you tap into those intuitive abilities. So I don't know.
To your point, I have the guided meditation is a lot better for me. Because I would like to mention this too. I went to it's in my book also, to the Hoffman Institute, which is a famous place in up in Napa Valley. It's called the Hoffman Institute, and it's really about it's a 10-day retreat where they literally strip you down to nothing. They take you apart and put you back together again. Wow. And it's all led meditation. You give away everything, your cell phones. You're there. They ask you not to have any kind of sexual encounters there. If you're doing drugs, you can't do drugs while there. You can't smoke cigarettes. You can't masturbate. It's all.
And you went there?
I did. I went there for 10 days actually, and it changed my life. It was amazing. But to your point, I was able to do. Institute. Yeah, I was able to do very, very well with that. And it's kind of famous right now because Katy Perry just went about 4 months ago. Okay. So she talks about it kind of publicly now. But it was life changing. It was one of those kind of light switch moments in my life. And the overall arch of the whole entire thing, that everything that we do, whether you're doing the way you act in your life, the way I act in my life, is always from your parents, right?
Absolutely.
But the overall arch of the whole thing is that your parents are 100% at fault, but 100% not to blame, because they learn it from their parents and they learn it from their parents. So you pass all this stuff along, even with your own children, right? You don't even know that you're passing these traits along that could be negative or positive, whatever. And so you may have like one of your sons and be like, "Hey, I'm like you in this sense, blah blah blah." So they really try and help you try and break the pattern of passing it on to the negative stuff, passing it on to your children or siblings and that kind of thing. So that's the overall, arch of the whole thing. But it's a very, very intensive project. And you're stripped down to nothing. Like, you don't even know who you are for like day 3, 4, 5. And they warn you of that. They're saying, they actually call it the Hoffman crash. A lot of people like leave 10 days later and they go back into reality, and you're so like grounded and spiritual, and you're kind of like floating, and like the cars are moving slower, the life is moving slower. But the main thing is that you change in 10 days. When you go back to your real life, those people have not changed. You have to kind of readjust to that. But that's one of the best things I ever did.
So how did you benefit from it? What changed for you after that?
Just, everything I can imagine. That was, I had like 3 times in my life that I can say that the following day my life changed. And one was my grandmother when she passed away when I was 11. I had that story in the book. I thought I was responsible at the time for killing her because I gave her CPR and I crushed her rib cage. I found out later from the doctor. So I carried that with me for like 30 years that I contributed to her passing away. And then the Hoffman thing, which just totally changed. That's one reason why I went to Hoffman 30 years later, actually, was kind of work on that. And then I'm personally a World War II history buff. And I was able to manipulate my way to spending a night on Auschwitz, staying overnight in a concentration camp. And that was another thing, that the following morning I was a different person. After I was on that camp where 6 million people were murdered, and I stayed there, and it just was like the most, I'm getting chills right now just even telling you this, because it just was like, I woke up the following morning like, this is like the most light. So I was a whole nother person when I left. And always for the better.
Is it gratitude, or what is the feeling? I mean, what feels different?
Well, the Auschwitz thing was that, I would say more than anything, that changed my life the most, because I kind of woke up the following day saying, nothing matters. I was always searching for, I also had genetic dysmorphic disorder. I had like 17, 18 plastic surgeries since I was 30 years old. So I was always looking for outer beauty rather than an inner beauty. That's kind of what my book is about. My pursuit of beauty is not only about me finding what's in myself, but also doing it for other people. That's what I do for a living, and making people hopefully feel more beautiful about themselves.
Absolutely.
And at the very, very end of my book, it really is that which is true, I kind of discovered that it's really inner beauty is what it's about. And just being on that concentration camp, I just felt so raw and so like, it's so hard to even explain. It was spooky, it would be an obvious word, but you could just like hear whispers in the wind. You could hear, it was a pouring, raining night. I slept in one of the barracks, so I was able to read. I don't know what I was reading, but it was stuff written in Polish and in Russian and in Hebrew and whatever. So people.
So it was like scratching on the walls. Like
exactly. So it just was a. The reason why I did it was out of respect to your question. Again, I'm Roman Catholic. I'm not even Jewish, but I just have a fascination how one human being who was, I would say, was one of the Antichrist or Hitler, was able to manipulate a whole continent, and how this actually was able to even happen and get away with, right, for a period of time. So I went there for respect, but what I thought, I always have to be very careful telling the story, because I don't want to be like, hey, I spent one night in Auschwitz, and that was like a big deal. Of course it wasn't. You can't compare it to what people went through there.
No,
but I tried to at least
saying that.
Just kind of respect it and just kind of feel a little bit what the experience was. And I was a different person the following day. And it was, to answer your question, I just was more grounded. I was more relaxed. I didn't care about, I didn't really care about stuff. I was a big stuff person. I wanted the best car, the best luggage of it. And I have to have that stuff, but I had it in the past. But I don't feel like I need that stuff anymore. I just like, this is what I have. This is who I am. Like I'm planning a wedding right now with my fiance Roberto. We're doing it, and I'm telling people, I'm just a good old fashioned working guy. I work for a living, and if I don't work for a week, then stuff changes financially for me. So I'm not like a. So what my son's saying, that's something I would never be able to say. I would always be like kind of borderline, like put on the illusion that I have everything, that I can have whatever I want, which was totally not the case. It was all fake. But now I don't care about any of that anymore. It just is like, this is who I am. This is what you get. And if I have something nice, it's because I worked really hard for it. That's it. Yeah. I didn't really answer your question, but it's just like, I don't really know how to unpack it. It was so weird. I don't really know how to unpack it too much. But
yeah, no, I get that. And I appreciate your answer. You touched on something that is, I would love your opinion on, because, in the beauty industry, I think a lot of times we take a lot of flack because, you were obsessed with beauty, trying to change yourself and manipulate yourself into being something because you were not comfortable with who you were inside. So you were trying to make changes on the outside. And I, being in the beauty industry most of my life, I heard this from a lot of people who are really into natural beauty. You're peddling falsehoods to women. You're perpetrating this negative that we're not good enough, and that's why we need all of these beauty treatments. And yet my experience was very different. And one of the reasons I really fell in love with beauty was working at the Estee Lauder counter. One of the very first women I helped was a woman who was, had physical disabilities, and her face was actually somewhat deformed from her disabilities. And I helped her put her makeup on for the first time when she was 16. And I remember her crying, looking in the mirror and saying, "Thank you so much. I've never felt so beautiful in my life." Right. And that was a life-changing moment for me. It was like the first time I had ever felt like I had really touched somebody's life in a way that was more impactful than just, a conversation or something. And then carrying that forward, we all know that women connect their self-esteem to beauty, and right. It can be a really positive thing. And yet I feel like sometimes beauty gets a negative rap for maybe all of the other sides of it. And not right. to say that there aren't negative sides of it as well, but how do you speak to that?
Well, one thing I've always said is that, to your point, is that I believe I like the more natural beauty, the better is what I'm saying. So I'm not a big belief in color cosmetics. There's not one woman out there they're gonna say, "Vince, go to hell." Of course, I'm gonna.
Well, this is how I wake up.
I know it's like of course I'm gonna put on my makeup, right? But I always tell them is that I really want to treat and correct and make you feel beautiful on just your natural skin first, and then use the makeup to enhance it rather than the other way around. Yeah. So we have a lot of people to come in with severe rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, et cetera, and they come into me and they have 2 layers of foundation on it, and it's making the condition so much worse. Just give me 10 days of strip down, no makeup. Let me help you treat the skin. I know it's really hard to go out in public. I totally get it. But it's let's try and enhance the skin first and make you feel beautiful the way you are. And then the makeup then is a nice, icing on the cake, right? Yep. And again, most women say, I can't go to work for one day without my makeup. There's no way it's going to happen. So it's really trying just to time it and get it done the proper way. But I always like to try and treat from the inside out rather than the outside in if possible.
Well, and I think I totally hear what you're saying. And you're a person that's always dealt from more of the skincare aspect right. of it. So that makes a lot of sense. I think one of the things that has been a trigger for me in that way, and not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I feel like the Kardashians have not been the best role model to young right. women, because it's like this whole idea now that you have to have lip injections, and they're having plastic surgery or aesthetic right. Procedures in their teens and their young age, and instead of just trying to figure out how they can feel good about themselves in other areas. And I mean, is that bother you like it bothers me?
It does. Because it really is just, again, going off my own point. I made it bad enough for myself just doing it in my own mind, right? But now you have all this stuff going on TikTok and Instagram, whatever. And I think we're getting, and this includes myself. I mean, I look at guys and say, "Oh my God, that's a beautiful guy." But I'm almost more jealous than actually attractive. Like, I would love to walk in a room and have something I never had that in my life, but I had so many friends and so were, even like my ex-boyfriend, most of them were models and beautiful people. And I remember even one blah, blah, "Hey, you look really gorgeous today. Hi, Vince." So it would be stuff like that. People didn't realize they were saying "Oh my God, you look so handsome. Oh, hi, Vince, how you doing?" I'm like, oh. I'm just like, hello. So just, I never had that feeling to be able to feel that way. So I get it. But I think this makes it worse, to your point. I'm not a big Kardashian advocate either, for the same exact reason. Again, I worked with them in the past, and they're nice people, but it's not, I really don't like what they're putting out there. But that goes for all over. That goes for these TikTokers and Instagrammers and everybody, a lot of influencers, because we're kind of, the people we follow are, people you want to look at or interested in, that kind of thing. And all you're getting is just, "Oh, he's beautiful, she's beautiful, he's beautiful, she's beautiful." And if you're not in that caliber in your own mind, you're like, it's not very, very positive.
Right, exactly.
So I think it's a lot worse right now than actually it even was 10, 15 years ago, for sure.
Wow. Do you think that, we're not seeing the focus on print media the way it was, when we were growing up? Now, definitely all of the online channels are seeming to be where the young people are going for their beauty news. Has that impacted the way you think the cosmetic industry is going? And
yeah, well, part of the problem with that is, Delphine, is that from being a scientist and a chemist, when I watch influencers, kind of do this and talk about it, the big issue is that I would say 99% of the time, the information they're saying is totally wrong. The chemicals aren't right. What they do in the skin is not correct. They're saying, hey, this product does stuff. So it's not really giving the right information out. And it helps those brands, sell product, most likely, but it's not giving out. I mean, like you said, you worked at the Lauder counter, so you remember that you would go there, you talk to a customer, you'd unpack it all, you explain it to them, you put it on your skin, you try it. But if you have these influencers that are not really...
And we were trained. I mean, we went through a lot of training to work behind the counter.
Yeah, and these are just people that are getting it in the mail, and because they're going to talk about it and they're saying... So all the information most of the time is wrong, and I'm watching it kind of like just cringing, like, oh my God, can you please sometimes
not true.
Sometimes I DM them, and I just totally very honest, like, just give me, I mean, I don't want anything, just give me a call or DM me, and I'll give you a little education on the brand, whatever it is, just to kind of make sure it's more accurate.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Are there people that you go to for information? I mean, who are your influencers? What books are you reading? Where do you get your...
I actually get most of my influences from my actual chemical supplier. So what happens, I'm a trend forecast writer for the beauty industry. So I do it every year with 24 other people. And we're pretty
lucky.
I
want to be in that round.
I know. So we're kind of like telling the world what's going to be coming out for the next 2 years. And we have a tremendous amount of raw material suppliers, chemical suppliers, about 100 of them that I work with. And they come to me as a chemist, say, okay, well, this is what we have coming out in 18 months and in 2 years. So they're bringing us all the new technology, all the new information before the world even sees it. And then we take it as a raw material and try and make it into a product and make sure it's going to be efficacious and work and perform and that kind of thing. So I normally look at them, honestly, because they're experts even more than I am. They bring the ingredients and the new technology to us, and we put it into a beautiful, comprehensive product. They kind of look like more like my mentors and my raw material suppliers and people that are actually really behind the scenes in the industry that know it's coming down the pike. Coming down the pike trend-wise.
So give us a hint. What's coming down the pike? What are the newest ingredients and technologies that you're excited about?
Well, one of them is the Micellar Fluids, which is a pretty much a waterless cleanser. I have one of them in my brand too. But
how does that work? I swear to gosh, I use it, but I still don't quite understand. It feels like water, and yet it does what a cream or a cleanser would normally do, right?
Right. It's kind of like a flowable cleansing water, and the reason why I came up with mine personally years ago when California was in a horrible water drought, which is about 3-4 years ago, and I wanted to make something that you didn't need water to use. And it wasn't like my idea, this kind of technology, but normally Korea does all. Korea is one of the leading countries in the world for beauty innovation. So a lot of times we look at Korea and what they have going on, and that's what they came up with the MyFluid. They came up with BB creams before anybody knew what they were. The masks, exactly. So what it actually is, it's a waterless cleanser. You can use it. It's great for being on an airplane because you don't have to even get out of your seat. You can wash your makeup off. You can just tone with it. You can do a full cleansing with it. So it's a very flowable cleansing water. And also sleeping packs, the other technology right now too, where you actually sleep with I call it having an invisible veil on your skin. So it's a very breathable mask. You don't really feel it on your skin when you go to bed, but you wake up, your skin's like silk. So you actually put it on before you go to bed. And it's normally in a gel form, and you wash it off in the morning, and your skin feels amazing.
Does it dry?
No, it's very moisturizing.
It stays moist throughout the day. You're not getting it on your pillow and everything?
Right. That's why I call it almost like an invisible veil, because you know it's on there, but it doesn't pull anything on the pillow. It's not sticky or tacky, and it breathes. But it's just enough where it keeps your skin very moist, overnight.
Oh, wow. That might be great for flights too.
Yeah, same thing. Except maybe you'll be a little shiny on the flight, but if you go on an overnight flight, who cares? Put it on. Put your mask on, put your sleeping pack on. It keeps it very moisturized. Throw it down a Valium with some scotch. You're good to go.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So where did those trends that you guys are talking about in your meetings, is that what's disseminated through the beauty publications, or where is that information disseminated?
Yeah, the trends that I work on, again, how we make up these trends, and they are actually a theory made up, but it's based on a new technology that we're getting from suppliers, like I mentioned. And the one that I work with, which is through the Cosmetics organization, which is a big trade show organization that's in a different country in Europe every single year. The report goes out to only 4 major companies. It goes to P&G, J&J, Lauder, and L'Oreal. They get it, and all the head beauty editors get it for Condé Nast, Philipacci, Fairchild, all the ones. So like they get Allure. They get like the trends that are coming out. So we kind of give them like advanced copies so they know what to write about, what's coming up. So it's really kind of an internal document that goes to the raw material suppliers, the contract manufacturers actually make products and they're going to be making new ingredients, et cetera. So it's not like it doesn't go out to the general public. It goes out to like the internal beauty industry. So they know what's coming down the pike.
And that's where they get their stories and all that kind of stuff.
Right, exactly.
So have you tried any of the new Neutrogena Hydro Boost products?
I have.
I think I actually brought you one time.
Yeah.
I am obsessed.
Yeah.
This is really one of the best product lines. And I actually, Sarah just gave me the Hydro Boost makeup wipes.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love this stuff.
It is very good.
I'm sure alpha hydroxy is a big part of it, but there's got to be something else in there because it's just so moisturizing.
I think retinol's in it too. If I'm thinking on the right one, yes. Retinol's really hot right now. Again, hyaluronic acid, which is HA, which is really hot. We actually worked on your product with hyaluronic acid,
Yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
Plump me up, baby.
That's right, that's what it does.
Plump up the band. Give me an idea. Like, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the world today. What bothers you? What keeps you up at night? What do you think is our biggest pressing issue?
Oh, God, I mean, there's so many things, right? It's a hard question because there's a lot going on. To your point, I would say I'm really tuned.
Today's Earth Day, so FYI.
World peace. I'm looking for world peace. Looking for world. It's a Miss America answer, right?
I like
that would be great, wouldn't it?
That would be great.
I mean, I think about the environment. I think about systemic racism. I think about women's rights. I personally have been really, really involved in the women's category my whole entire career. I minored in women's studies when I was in college. So one of my first jobs, coming out of the 2 years of college that I did, I actually worked with a bunch of OBGYNs, and I met that urologist, et cetera. So I know way too much about the women's body. So my very first projects were to treat PMS, menopause, sexual dysfunction in women, varicose veins, breast tenderness. And so I really been involved in that category. So I still think, as we sit here today, women are still really, really underrated, underpaid, underrespected. But that's one of my big. I personally worked with the About As Women's Shelter for many, many years up in Malibu. So I'm a big advocate of just women's rights and studies and just kind of evolving. And again, the systemic racism is there too. But I because I work with women so much, I'm doing this my whole entire career. So I still think we have a little way to take you guys until we get to equal everything.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Vince. We appreciate you.
Well, I'm trying.
You've been vying for us.
I'm one of the biggest feminists around.
Well, we got a woman in the White House now, so we're little baby steps.
That's right.
We're getting there. Tell me something that you used to believe but you don't anymore.
Oh, another hard question. I hope it's not too much of a negative answer, but I really used to believe that everything I was doing in my career, people I would talk to me, that everybody was honest. That everyone that came to me was like what they said they were going to do. And that was 1,000,000% not the case. So I hate to say it, but now I'm like, I go into every single new meeting. I don't trust them at all. And I wait for them to have to prove themselves. Where my whole entire life I was the other way around. And I love being the other way. But I've just been burnt hundreds and hundreds. And that's not like an exaggerated number I'm talking, maybe even close to 1,000 times over 25 years. So it's a horrible answer to have to say, but that's kind of where I'm really, I don't trust anything or anybody until I have the proof in the pudding or the money in the bank or whatever you want to call it. Just really, I just think a lot of people are just full of shit anymore. And we're here in Southern California, and what are your, hey, I'm going to have a script coming out. Hey, I've got a book coming out. Hey, I got this. Everyone is so ego-driven and narcissistic, including myself a little bit. I've done a lot better with it. But if I ever was narcissistic, it's now totally gone because I've been working on my documentary, my book for over 7 years, and I don't want to hear like a word about myself anymore. If you held a gun to my head, I wouldn't read my book again. I wouldn't watch my movie again if you held a gun to my head. I can't do it. So just really, again, it's not a real positive answer, but that is one thing that changed. I wish it didn't. But
is there a way to be thoughtful about that without being jaded?
Yes, I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm working on it. I really try not to be jaded, but I don't. I would be being dishonest if I said that I'm not. But it's hard. I think you have to just find the right people, and then you are able to flush them out. I just got to take it slower rather than just kind of diving right in and saying, hey, let's trust. Normally I'd be like, let's go, shake hands, let's go. And I got a pile of contracts, this high that I can throw in your fireplace. Mm-hmm. They're not worth anything to paper to written. All what's really matters with the person behind it is they have integrity. Yeah. The ones I've done on cocktail napkins have been actually come to fruition and been true. So the people that I've had the handshake with, that I really looked eye to eye with, I've had better luck with that than like a corporation or a celebrity, client with having 20 layers of agencies and attorneys and all that kind of stuff involved. So just, I'm trying to be not jaded. We'll see if I can get better at it.
Well, I mean, Hollywood kind of has that reputation. So, I mean, is it more specifically in more of the Hollywood kind of celebrity arena, or are you finding that even in big corporations like, No,
I hate to throw Hollywood under the bus, but yeah, I lived in LA from 1995 to 2007. And I always say I just got LA'd out, and I moved down to Laguna Beach here, in 2007, and I feel it's much, much better down here for sure.
Yeah.
So I think it is more of an LA thing. And again, I had nothing bad to say about Los Angeles. I mean, they started my career there, but the trust level is lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is because I grew up in LA. I'm an LA girl, but I've been living in Orange County since '89, and my family's still up there. I still like to go visit, but. No, you couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me enough money to move back to LA.
Right.
I just love the slower pace of Orange County, but we don't have the culture down here that you can find up in LA. That's the downside. I mean, we just don't have the same.
But we can get there in 50 minutes or 3 weeks in traffic, depending on what day you're going in. But yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So. I know you're a contributor to a lot of magazines, so I'm not asking you to pick your favorite child, but is there publications that specifically that you tend to go to more that you like?
Well, and
we have to do a shout out for Riviera Modern Luxury.
That's what I was going to say. I don't mind saying I do have a favorite, which is Modern Luxury.
Yeah, me too.
They've been very, very good to me, and to you as well.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of work with Riviera. And Chris, who's the group publisher there.
Do you like them that they went back to the name Riviera?
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I talked about Chris, who's a group publisher there, and I'm sure we'll hear this podcast. I'll give a shout out to Chris.
Yeah.
He's a buddy of mine, and they've been very good to me. And that's one of the things that actually he changed. Was he's like the Modern Luxury name just wasn't really resonating, and they brought it back to Riviera.
Yeah.
Even Angelino, they helped me a lot up north too. So I really believe in a publication. And we're going to maybe be doing a collaboration with them. I'm going to be working on a fine fragrance for a gigantic legend, a postmortem fragrance. She's I don't want to say her name. I just got the contract this morning, but I didn't sign it yet.
Okay.
But we are going to try and do.
I feel a drum roll.
I know we are. I am going to try and do. Can I say it, Merle? Do you think that I have the contract now or no? She's shaking her head. We don't know. But it's a gigantic name. But we're going to try and do a lot with Modern Luxury and roll it out in actually another publication throughout the, Scottsdale, Ocean Drive, Miami, in New York, Aspen here, Dallas, etc.
Sounds exciting. Yeah. Can't wait.
I want to say it so bad, but I can't.
Okay. Well, speaking of exciting, let's talk a little bit about the movie because you have a documentary soon to be released.
Yep.
When is that rolling out?
That's coming out sometime in the fall. We're literally just starting the film festival route right now. And it's called Skin Deep, Formulating a Legacy. And what it actually is it's kind of a deep dive showing America how products are made from concept to launch, how we go through the process, showcasing some of our celebrity clients and how we actually go through the whole work. So it really is showing how we go through the process. Where the book was even a deeper dive into my personal life. This is more surface oriented, but
only skin deep.
Yeah, no, exactly. but seriously, Delphine, I get every single week, I get a minimum of 2 or 3 times a week asked, oh, how do you make this product? How do you bring it to market? I mean, people have a real interest in it. And I can't believe it actually hasn't been done or shown before, to be honest with you. So I'm really excited about having that coming out and showing America how we actually make this stuff and what goes into it. Because to your point, you've been involved in the process with me. It's very, very involved. It's very expensive. It's a long journey. I mean, it's not just putting a formulation together. Then you got to come up with bottles and caps and actuators and labels and global translation and barcoding and unicorn and boxes. And so, I mean, it's a really, really long, tedious process. And it takes a minimum of 18 months to get a product to market that you do from scratch. So, which is what we do all day long. But our clients are always in constant rotation, about an 18-month cycle. So we have in the documentary, we have one done in the beginning, one done in the middle, and ones that are launching. And also it's about my personal life too. We have a lot about in there too. And going back to my hometown, New Jersey, where I'm from, and the house fires in there that happened to me. So we all documented all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a Fabulous story. I mean, not fabulous in good ways, but incredible.
Yeah.
So speaking of launching, you have a product line that you have just launched recently and rolling out, Caviar Diamond.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. I think we have some of it here, don't we?
Yeah, we do somewhere. I don't know where we put it, but I can.
So tell us about that.
So that was always my goal, was to get my product line out there, my own name on it, which took forever. So this is about 12 years in the making.
So this is beautiful. The box is beautiful.
Packager. So it's four product kit, and it is laced with pure caviar and pure diamond extract, which is actually diamond syrup, which is diamond dust. So we commissioned with De Beers up in Canada to get the diamond syrup dust from them.
Oh my gosh! Now, what does diamonds do for your skin?
Diamonds are very rich in like a copper PCA, zinc PCA, magnesium PCA, which are all earth metals. As you probably know, our bodies are about 75% oceanic elements. The other 25 are earth metals. So that's where the caviar part comes in. It's to kind of replenish the oceanic elements into our skin, and then the diamond syrup is for the earth metal side. And the reason why the product line is so special is that I built these raw materials in it that are called instant gratifiers. So when you put the product on, you touch and see and feel the results within 15 to 30 seconds. And it's right there on contact. So if, for example, if you were back to your Estee Lauder counter, right, and you had a product like that, and you can show a woman right there in the mirror to tightening and affirming, that'd be pretty impressive. That's what it does. So it's a very expensive product to make.
So what's the price point?
It's $1,500 for the kit, it's actually 8 products in 4, meaning that they're all dual active. So, for example, I have one of the first full ocular eye creams that are on the market, meaning that it treats fine lines, wrinkles, and feathering, and tightens and firms, and dark circles and puff discoloration. You can normally put an eye cream here, right? This is for a full orbital eye cream all the way around.
Wow!
So bags.
Because we were taught you never put it closer than your orbital bone.
And that's why this took 10 years. We did ocular studies. We have safe for contact use wear. So it's for the whole entire eye area. And then we have the pure caviar diamond moisturizer, which also works as a night cream. So you're getting 8 products in 4. And then it's actually a caviar capsule, which is one for every 30 days. So it's 30 count. And that you put onto the skin. And your skin's like silk in a matter of 10 seconds. And you tried the product. I think you tried it, right?
It's amazing, amazing. Yeah, well, and you have beautiful skin too.
I try. I'm trying to do a J-Lo in reverse if I can.
Me too.
We're all doing that.
We're all trying it.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to show your book, My Pursuit of Beauty.
That'd be me.
Absolutely a huge page turner. Could not put it down. And an incredible story. Thank you so much, Vince, for being my guest today. I so appreciate you coming on.
I'm glad to be in your top 10 or top 6.
Yes, you're at the top of the top.
Thank you.
Thanks, Del.
Thank you, darling.